I'd drink it.
Wax my sack, we have a winner! Why not look at NetForest's amazing flower and gift selection with same-day delivery nationwide? It's perfect for keeping mother-in-laws happy.
Same-day delivery nationwide. That should work. And if it doesn't?
Drink the coffee. And remember, if you can't love somebody else, love yourself.
Right, it's 8 o'clock, time for your latest Eyewitness News, after which I really want your views on this. Have we been dealing with corruption the wrong way? Why don't we de-incentivize looters by taking away their ill-gotten gains? Eskom will explain how it is going after the people they say enabled the Guptas to loot the utility.
This is Eyewitness News.
Matsela Koko tells Eskom to bring it on, and ZANU-PF says with compensation on the way, the white farmers can now call for an end to sanctions. Good morning, I'm Tara Penny. Eskom's former head of generation and former group CEO Matsela Koko says he's looking forward to receiving a summons from the Special Investigating Unit so he can find out what he's being accused of. The unit and Eskom have issued summons seeking to recover funds from former board members, executives, members of the Gupta family and their associates. Koko is among those respondents, along with former group CEO Brian Molefe, former chief financial officer Anuj Singh, and Gupta brothers Rajesh, Atul and Ajay. The Eskom board members and executives are accused of diverting about 3.8 billion rand from Eskom to help the Guptas and their associates acquire Optimum Coal, which supplied the Hendrina power station with coal. Modise takes a look.
When Eyewitness News reached out to Matsela Koko, he said he'd heard of the summons against him in the news. He says he has no idea what Eskom or the Special Investigating Unit is accusing him of.
Of course, I'm looking forward to the summonses. Of course, I want to know what Eskom's version is about what they have done. I want to have a decent conversation with my wife about what Eskom says have done. I want to have a decent conversation with my kids about what Eskom says have done. I want to have a decent conversation with my lawyers. Right now, I can't confess. I just don't know what they have done.
Koko has likened this to the civil claims filed by the Helen Suzman Foundation, saying that case had fallen flat. The SIU says it cannot give a timeline on how long the process of recovering the funds will take, but they'd like this case to be completed sooner rather than later. Modise, Eyewitness News.
The ANC caucus in Parliament says it deeply regrets that despite harsh warnings issued at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic for clean governance, the relief fund has still been abused. The Special Investigating Unit is probing multi-million rand contracts at the centre of tender corruption linked to the 500 billion rand COVID-19 relief fund. Presidential spokesperson Kusela Diko and her husband Tandisiwes, as well as Gauteng Health MEC Bandile Masuku and his wife Loyiso, have been implicated in the irregular awarding of a tender for personal protective equipment in Gauteng. It's just one of the deals now under the SIU microscope while the country battles a shortage of PPE. Mia Lindiki reports.
The impact of the coronavirus requires an extraordinary coronavirus budget of around 500 billion rand to direct resources towards fighting the pandemic.
When President Cyril Ramaphosa stood before the country on the 21st of April, he outlined clear plans for how the money would be spent. But in just 3 months, those clear plans have been reduced to criminal investigations with political implications and calls for heads to roll. The ANC's Nomfonelo Kota says the caucus refuses to accept the public's hard-earned money, which contributed to the fund through taxes, can be allowed to simply vanish.
As the ANC caucus, we further support that public servants and political office bearers must avoid even the perception of conflict of interest.
She says they'll monitor the developments closely and will take internal action against its members if anyone is actually found guilty of wrongdoing. Mia Lindiki, Eyewitness News.
Meanwhile, Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane says she's received more than 500 complaints of dodgy procurement processes linked to COVID-19 involving government. Some of these complaints include personal protective equipment contracts as well as flouted procurement processes for quarantine sites. One of these cases involves an Eastern Cape MEC who allegedly intervened to make sure a lodge she owns scored a lucrative contract for a quarantine site. Mkhwebane says this contract is one of her biggest concerns.
We are picking up resistance because now they are on top of that using even attorneys now to engage the office, which is totally unnecessary, and they are going to still spend more money to pay attorneys to respond to us.
The case against an Eastern Cape Health Department staff member accused of transporting alcohol in a state vehicle during lockdown has been postponed to October. Ayanda Matinise made his first appearance in the King Williamstown Magistrates Court yesterday on charges of fraud, using a state vehicle without consent and violating lockdown regulations. Matinise was arrested by police over the weekend after he was caught transporting alcohol in a state vehicle. He allegedly tried to evade arrest as well by trying to bribe police officials. The NPA's Annalisa Nkakani says the accused is part of the core staff complement of Eastern Cape Health MEC Sindisiwa Gomba.
Ayanda Matinise appeared at the King Williamstown Magistrate Court for 3 charges. His next court appearance will be on the 13th of October 2020. The matter was postponed for further investigation. The court granted him 5,000 rand bail.
And Zimbabwe's ruling ZANU-PF party has commended President Emmerson Mnangagwa for concluding a global compensation agreement that is set to facilitate payment of compensation to white former commercial farmers whose land was appropriated during the contentious land reform program. ZANU-PF's acting spokesperson, Patrick Chinamasa, says now that the land reform program has been put to rest, ZANU-PF expects these white commercial farmers to start calling for the lifting of sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe after it embarked on its land redistribution program. During the party's latest address, Chinamasa also took a swipe at EFF leader Julius Malema for his uninformed comments regarding the land issue in Zimbabwe. The comments follow Malema's criticism of Zimbabwe's government for its decision to compensate the white commercial farmers, questioning where the country would get the money for the massive $3.5 billion payout. Chinamasa says Malema needs to realize that making inflammatory speeches and donning red work suits and berets do not make a revolution. Gold's at $1,973.80 an ounce. The rand's at 17.19 to the dollar, 22.48 to the pound, 20.24 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $43.81 a barrel.
In the traffic at the moment, traffic lights out at Witkoppen and Northumberland in the North Riding area. That's causing quite a few delays. Also an accident seen on the M1 northbound as you approach the Crown interchange going towards the Joburg CBD.
In your sport, Brentford and Fulham will play for a place in the Premier League tonight. The International Football Association says players who deliberately cough at match officials or other players can be red-carded. England plays Ireland in the third ODI today, and MotoGP world champion Marc Marquez has a second operation on his broken arm.
A fine day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs of 23 and 24 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Eskom's former group CEO Matsela Koko says he's looking forward to receiving a summons from the Special Investigating Unit so he can find out what he's being accused of.
Eyewitness News. In touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.mobi. Keep watching.